Hello, America and around the world. This is Charity Smith, Ms.Mogul, the host of Mogul Talk. I am so excited about today's segment. It is a really timely content that we're going to share with you today. Today's show is the color of healthcare. So this is a little bit of a different conversation than what we would normally have on the show. But again, we want to be relevant and we want to keep our hand on the pulse of what's important to you. So we have a special show today, and I'm really excited about that. I'm going to introduce our speaker in just a minute, but before we do that, want to let you know this. Our show today is sponsored by TLC, Total Life Changes. If you are feeling sluggish or bloated, or you want to boost your immune system or your health overall, we really encourage you to try out the products with TLC. If you'd like more information about that, just go to my Facebook page, look at the links on the right-hand side, and get some samples. We'd love for you to try them out and give us your feedback. Also, our show is sponsored today by Mogul U Real Estate Academy. For those of you who are looking to diversify your portfolio, or you want to get a career change of some kind, right? We really encourage you to go and take some of our self-paced courses. You can find out more about Mogul U Real Estate Academy at mommiescreatingeconomies.com. And listen, when you complete each model, you also get a certificate of completion. Now, why is that relevant? If you are new to investing, or if you need to prove to your lender or to a business partner that you really do have acumen and you know what you're doing, that's an important tool to have. Now, let me jump into our segment today again, because I know we're probably going to run right up to the end of the clock. I really want to get her in here. Today's guest is a wonderful person, and I'm saying that with bias and without bias, and you'll all figure that out in a little bit, but she is absolutely fantastic. Her name is Deadra Thomas, MHABSNRN, and she is the president and CEO of Journey Medical Training Center, which is a career school located in Frisco, Texas, right here in the great state of Texas. She's a veteran naval officer. Thomas also has over 30 years of professional experience in nursing leadership, management, and education. She has received numerous awards and recognition, including the Navy Achievement Medical, DFW Great 100 Nurses, Baylor Healthcare System CEO Award, yes to all of that, and D Magazine's Excellence in Nursing finalist. Thomas is known for her ability to connect with people, innovation, creativity, and her humanitarian spirit. Thomas holds a Master of Arts in Healthcare Administration from Ashford University and a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from Concordia. And listen, if you don't know by now, she is extremely credentialed. And listen, this woman knows what she's talking about, been in the industry for 30 years. And let me just put this plug in there. She's family in the best way. She is family. And so today is a real honor and a treat for me to host this woman of legacy and entrepreneurship. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Deadra.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Oh God, no, the pleasure, I promise you, is all mine. And talk about full circle. We grew up in the great state of Mississippi, and all of that, humble beginnings, surrounded by family and culture and laughter and all of that. And life took us in different paths, but my God, what a blessing it is to be here today to host you, right? And all of the things that you've been able to accomplish in your extensive career. Talk to us a little bit before we get into the color of healthcare. We want to know your story. How in the world did you build this thriving business in Texas, training young professionals in what you do best? Talk to us about that.
Well, in my career, I've always done education. Nursing is teaching. I'm a nurse first. Actually, let me correct that. I'm a leader first. So, but nursing is the career path that I chose. In nursing, you're teaching your patients. You get new nurses that you bring on to staff. You train them. And nurses always get put on lots of committees where you come up with plans and you problem solve. And, if you have innovation and creativity, you deploy those skills. So I've done that for 30 years, and really I just thought I've seen a lot of things. Sometimes I've seen people who are not very well trained in high positions or who have graduated. I've seen how people problem solve. I've seen how people delivered healthcare. And I just thought I have something to offer. And I would like to do this, with my own skills where I can also have control over the environment and use my core values and implement those and then have students just reproduce after my own kind. So that's what really kind of sparked my interest in this. I
So,
started getting I've been in the corporate world too of nursing, just kind of got, a little tired with seeing no integrity there and also seeing kind of the people there are no opportunities or limited opportunities for women who are African American.
So that's a whole different series that we would have to unpack, right? Just that alone is a
Of
series
course.
to unpack. But I love the story of what led you to create Journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what an appropriate name to name your school. I love what you talked about. You wanted to reproduce your core values. So
Yes.
much of what we're lacking, not just in healthcare, but because we're talking about healthcare today, we'll focus on that. But
Sure.
so much of what we're lacking is core integrity in
Sure.
how we're treated. I've had the experience sometimes where being Ms.Mogul, and you show up and you look the best and you look the part,
Yes.
of being worthy of respect in healthcare and not receiving that. And then
Yes.
I didn't share this with you before we went on air, but I've also done a couple of experiments where I would dress in what would be a stereotypical way
Yes.
just to see what
Mm-hmm.
would happen. Same healthcare system, but I went to a different hospital for the same thing just to see.
Mm-hmm.
And the treatment, the
Yes.
response
Yes.
was disproportionately worse with that.
Yes.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really anxious to have this conversation with you. And again, I want to applaud your journey, right? 30 years of service. Let's talk about military service as well, not just in corporate, but military. Your life has been one of servant leadership, I would say.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not just protecting the country, but also protecting people and our healthcare and just our well-being.
Yes.
Kind of a she-ra.
Well, thank you.
This
Thank
woman
you.
is like, yes, I got you.
Thank you. Thank you.
But what an honor it is, though, to have people with your perspective and your insight in these particular places, helping to guide the narrative and the conversation about how we protect ourselves, not just our national borders, right? But how we
Right.
take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to us about now. God, there's so much, and we could spend a lifetime, and I think we could honestly do that, talking about the impacts of the pandemic. This is one for the ages. This is the
Mm-hmm.
only one I've lived through in my lifetime, and I don't think we're that far apart in age. We
Right.
won't put that out
Right.
there because it don't fit. We won't put it out there, but honey, we're not that far in age.
Right.
But we have lived through a pandemic, which is a
Yes.
once in a lifetime occurrence for many people.
Yes.
And certainly we've seen on top of that the social impacts of that. Prior to the pandemic, we had social unrest in cities around the country. Last year was just
Mm-hmm.
full of civic upheaval and social unrest. Now compound that with now a pandemic, which is a once
Mm-hmm.
in a lifetime occurrence. And so we've seen so much, and the mental toll that it's taken on citizens. That's
Yes.
another conversation we could have, right? And then just
Absolutely.
the physical impact of
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19, the economic impact. And now we're talking about, I think it's long haul syndrome,
Yeah.
where people who have been diagnosed with COVID are now experiencing effects of that. But before we get to that, in your experience, what was the state of affairs in healthcare before all of this? Because
Mm-hmm.
we talk about the Tuskegee experiment, but
Mm-hmm.
many of us have had our own experiences. We don't have to go
Mm-hmm.
that far back. What's been your experience in healthcare before all of this broke loose?
I can tell you that in healthcare, especially, I'm going to just speak from a nursing perspective. When it comes to opportunities, you don't see a lot of people that look like you or me. When you see nurses, you see plenty of nurses. That's not the problem. The problem is you don't have a lot of people that move beyond the charge nurse. The people who can make decisions about how we treat our patients, or how do
Mm,
we go into communities where people have lack of access. So
mm,
people who can make those decisions, you don't see a lot of them that look like you or me. And when
mm.
you do see them, there's one or there's two. And what I found, and unfortunately, is sometimes the one or two don't even want to acknowledge each other because we're trying to blend in and make that position for ourselves, that we don't look at, if we come with their strength in numbers, we've gotten in here, let's bring more, because we can tell our own story. No one can tell our story like we can, right? So we would have nurses where they're sprinkled here and there. There's a glass ceiling, and usually at the director of nursing level. There are just a few of us. And so I've talked to other nurses. I worked for a large healthcare system, and there's one CEO nurse in that entire healthcare system that has over 30 hospitals. And I interviewed that person. I knew her before she got to that level. And I said, what do you say in the meetings when we have different issues that affect people of color? And she says, well, you have to be careful what you say. You don't say too much, because if I do say something, I might be the last person in this position. And I
Okay,
said, if you don't say anything, you are the last person in that position,
but
you
let's
know.
unpack that. That
Hmm.
is a powder keg. So while I'm hearing you talk, it's the invisible landmines that you
Yeah.
have to negotiate, right? Just
Hmm.
to get through the corridors of leadership. But I'm
Hmm.
thinking about the impact. You said that people who look like us are not in the rooms where the
Yes.
decisions of the quality of healthcare or access to healthcare, we're
Hmm.
not in those conversations. So if we're not in
Exactly.
those conversations, we can't lead the narratives about what's appropriate bedside manner, what's
Exactly.
cultural communication. Is there a cultural component to medicine? Um,
Which there
I,
is. Yes.
okay,
Hmm.
absolutely. And then
Hmm.
talking about too the accessibility. So
Hmm.
many of, and I tie this to the wealth gap, Deidre, because
Hmm.
that's kind of my space in business, right? Making sure that women have access to capital so that we can close the wealth gap. So many of women of color, and I throw out these statistics all the time, Hispanic women are making 50 cents on the dollar in corporate. African
Yes.
American women are making 60 to 80 cents on the dollar. Caucasian women working 80 to 85. Asian women 90% of the dollar. But none of those demographics are earning the full dollar. And because of those economic disparities, it's having
Hmm.
an impact now on accessibility, on trust, and then how we show up in
Hmm.
medical situations. Because if we're undercovered or
Hmm.
if we're not covered at all,
Hmm.
it has an impact then on how we receive care. So if we don't have voices like yours in
Hmm.
the room saying, hey, this exists, it's a thing. The economic gap is a thing, and it's
Yes.
showing up culturally, it's a thing.
Yes.
If we don't have that showing up, then we get the fear and the hesitancy of now trusting people who are entrusted to care
Hmm.
for our bodies. I mean, you think
Hmm.
about gynecological care and
Yes.
cancer care and all of that that goes, so all of the social issues. I'm
Hmm.
telling you, you opened up something of the cultural ramifications. And I
Hmm.
think about my own experiences there and how I felt in
Hmm.
both scenarios when I showed up as Ms.Mogul or just an average woman on the street who may or may not have insurance,
Hmm.
according to you, and
Exactly.
the care that I received. And then when I show my credentials, it's like, oh, and it's not that we're sorry, but you notice there's now a different response. Now we
There's
pick
a
up the
pop
pace.
too. Yes.
We
And
pick up
we
the talk to us
receive
about
that
that.
too. On the nursing side, I've experienced everything you've just said. as a
Wow.
nurse. So when I moved to Texas and I applied for positions here, I was offered all sorts of positions, but there was one that intrigued me. And so I thought, I interviewed, I said, I want this. I know I can do something with this position. However, there was a pay cut. I took like a $10 an hour pay cut for this position. And I didn't want to do it, but I thought, you know what? I think I can do something here. Well, sure enough, in 3 months, they came back and they're like, clearly, you're this big leader, and we've made some mistakes here. We're going to create a position for you over the people that your peers, right? That's when I saw the pay scales. So not only did they have to adjust my scale, now I'm upset because I realized they really did cut me. And so I had some conversations and we had to adjust my cost of living and those types of things. That happens with women of color all the time. Now, when you're talking about delivering patient care, there were times when I would hear the nurses speak back where the managers talk about this person is non-compliant. Non-compliant patients. So doctors get that label on patients. They're non-compliant. Well, they're not necessarily non-compliant, but they don't have anyone that looks like them. You don't speak the language. You don't understand what they cook normally for dinner. You don't know where they have to purchase their food. You don't know what money they have. And then some people have money, but you've already painted us all with this broad brush. I have been a nurse where I transferred to go help out a floor. They're short staffed. I said, I'll go help them. I walked down there. They said, we're sending a nurse down. I come and I said, I'm here to help. They give me a clipboard. I said, what's this for? You're the nurse aide, aren't you? I said, no, I'm the nurse. What gave you that impression? Oh, you're so young. Nurse aides are twice my age. What are you talking about? So we get those things, but there's not a non-compliance to African American or Hispanic. You just have to know what foods they eat, what's their culture. We learn this in school, but people leave it out. After they pass the test, they leave it there. We have to be able to implement this, and you have to have someone, people of color, who will be in the room and say, hold on a second, this is not fair. This is not what we're going to do. You can't be afraid to speak up. You can't hold on to your job so tightly that you're willing to let your people suffer in the midst of this.
And here is what I love about what you've done. You saw that and you created an ecosystem where change could happen, where now
Yeah.
you're training the next generation of medical leaders. Because you talk about frontline responders. I don't believe this will be the last pandemic we will see. And so we
Exactly.
have to have people who are versed in not just the
Yes.
medical aspect of care, but the cultural aspects of care. And what I love about what you do, Deidra, is you really do lead by example,
Thank
right?
you.
You step up and you show up, and training the future leaders to do that is going to make a tremendous impact on how we care for our communities. I think
Mm-hmm.
about too the Asian community.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a lot of civil unrest with the Asian community right now. But prior to that, I've had conversations with Asian leaders where there is a huge distrust in the medical system and with Hispanic communities as well, because they don't understand the immigration systems many times, and they think that the hospitals may be tied to immigration in some. Now, I don't know how that correlation works, but in their minds, from the conversations I've had, let me make it very personal, there
Yes.
is that correlation. So they would take other alternatives for care or not get care at all because of this distrust. But
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there could be somebody there who's an ally in my
Mm-hmm.
care makes all the difference in the world about the psychological impact of the visit as well as
Mm-hmm.
the physical impact of the visit.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
talk to us a little bit about now going specifically into COVID. We have vaccinations that are available, and historically,
Mm-hmm.
the African American community has been vaccine hesitant for many reasons. And some of them are cultural, some of them are medical. Now, I've talked to a lot of people, Deidra, and um, the hesitancy is a real place. There is a true angst. It is a thing and it is tangible. It is
Yes.
palatable when you have these conversations. And it doesn't matter the educational level, doesn't matter the socioeconomical level. There is a real fear. Where does that come from? And I know you really can't speak for everyone, but just in your experience, where does that come from? And how do we navigate now through the conversations of vaccines and COVID in communities of color? First question. And then secondly, well, let's dig into that one because we're at 20 minutes already. So God, I knew it was going
Part
to go
two
fast.
coming.
Right, we're going to have a part two. But how do we mitigate that history and have care and security in a COVID environment?
I think you have to have people that look like us in positions of leadership. And then the ones like you or me, when we get vaccinated, we need to have those real conversations with our family members and let them know, the pros, the cons, because, to be honest, we've heard about all of these, stories, Tuskegee Airmen and, other stories in the past. But what we have to talk about with our family, if you can make a difference within your circle, you can then start to spread out, right? And I've had these conversations in my family, really hard conversations in my family. But we have to let people know what are the benefits versus the risk. And if I believe this, then I'm going to be vaccinated as well. I can't ask you to be vaccinated and just give you the story and all the facts, and I don't do it myself. And not only when I get vaccinated, I have to share that and be visible and share that on Facebook, share it on social media, have those conversations. Don't be a closet vaccinate someone who's gotten the vaccine. Now you're in the closet. Yes, you're in the closet with it. So we have to do that. And I will also say, and of course, this is a political statement, but I will also say there is mistrust of the prior, the former president. And even it gave me a few, like I'm stepping back a little bit, like, are we going to rush a vaccine just to say we have a vaccine? Or are we going to, because I know how long it takes in the past, how long it's taken to get one approved. So now that we have this, there is that type of trust. So if we're going to trust our leaders, not just the president, but, we need our local leaders to get on board with this. We can't have people in the churches speaking against it. We got to have everybody, all the stakeholders get together and just make sure we're going to make a decision that our community is going to be healthy and we're going to be safe to the best of our abilities.
Mm-hmm. So then let's play the flip side of that for people, because the cultural component and the religious, and God, we're running close to time. The cultural and the religious can go together. You made a point about the churches and their narrative. And so I think that's an interesting dynamic to dig into. For those who say, well, I've done some research on the components of the vaccine. It goes against my personal faith-based belief. How do you then have that conversation about personal rights in medicine? How do you have
and we
that?
do.
Yeah, how do you have that conversation?
We do have those conversations. You do, at the end of the day, you do have to respect someone's right to refuse, because people have a right, but that's two different things. Respecting a person's right to refuse and not educating a person. If you're educated in that topic of the vaccines, and you say, based on my religious belief, I can't do this, you have to respect that. But that's different from someone who has gotten misinformation and they decided not to get vaccinated. Those people, that's what we need to talk to. And if I would just add one little thing about the religious component, if it's truly that it's against their religion, that's one thing. But if it's a person who says, no, I think God will protect me, I don't need the vaccine. Well, does God protect your headache? Because you're popping the ibuprofen. Does God protect you from the hypertension because you're taking the antihypertensive? Does God protect you from the diabetes because you're getting your shots every day? Mm-hmm. So we can't pick and choose where we're going to apply that we're going to believe that God is going to heal us miraculously. He can heal you through a physician, because he is the great physician. Therefore, he has. He wouldn't take that title had he not had, this respect and love for the physician as well.
Well, preach today. I told y'all we were family, right? There is this, y'all, if you don't feel it, you ought to feel it by now. You know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we
And
only
I would
have,
like to say we do
yes,
have speaking of the Asian community, you hit
yes,
something there very important. I'm so proud to say that that's a community we have tapped into at Journey Medical Training Center. You don't see any other schools going for that that population. And we also brought on an advisory person to be on our advisory board that's, it's a Chinese nurse, RN, fully credentialed, that she partners with us so we can make sure they're getting the best education. And we're looking for them to enter into the healthcare system in this area. You don't see a lot of that.
that's
And they're
true.
very well and very capable of doing this. So we're partnering with them.
You are the epitome of Black girl magic.
Thank you. And
Love,
so are you.
love, love. So we're down to 5 minutes. Um, and I know this is hard to encapsulate, and I promise you, I'm going to have you back because there's so much that I want to dig into, and 30 minutes just isn't enough time to dig into 30 years of experience. But in closing, what would you leave us with when it comes to how to best advocate for our own health care? What's your best advice to leave with us?
Well, first of all, speak up. You don't have to get upset and walk away. You can demand to have someone else. You can ask for the supervisor. You can ask for the hospital president. If you're at a clinic, you can ask for the owner of the clinic. Those people exist and they have phone numbers. And then you can also you can write a letter and demand a response. We don't have to just get upset and walk away. And then if you see another person, that's not getting the care that they need to, then you speak up. If you're on the inside and you're in healthcare and you see that someone's being turned away, or maybe they don't quite understand what the nurse is saying and they're getting frustrated, step in and say something. Help them. Ask, may I help you? Can I help? Ask the nurse, can I help in this situation? Maybe the nurse doesn't know how to communicate. Maybe there's a rift. Just ask, well, hey, can I step in and talk to them for you? They
God,
will appreciate that.
love my that's so empowering. And I think many times we forget that the medical professional really is working with and for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
So the patient has rights. The patient
We're
has
here
a
because
voice.
of the patient. If
That
there's no patient, we don't have a job.
So I want all of you to be empowered. If you have not heard anything else from this dynamic leader, I want you to know a couple of things. One, you're empowered to own your health care. You're
Yes.
empowered to own your voice and how you're cared for. And then to choose these career paths, right? My daughter is in STEM, but she's in the engineering aspect. We have
Oh, awesome.
oh yes, Kim, so proud of her. Mechanical
Awesome.
engineering, 4.0 GPA. Proud of that little Miss
Yes.
Thing. But we need more women of color in STEM areas that are technical, that
Mm-hmm.
understand these various areas, right? So we want to encourage everyone out there. If you have not, make sure you get in contact with this leader, Deidre Macon Thomas. Also, if you're looking for a new career option, you can contact her at Journey. Give us the information for your career school.
So you can contact us at Journey Medical Training Center, our website, journeymedicaltrainingcenter.com. You can call us at 469-803-5575, or you can send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We will respond to you and get back in touch with you.
And we'll also have her information here with the show, and we'll be a conduit of goodness. So if you would like to reach out to the show, if you missed any of that, reach out to the show. We'd be happy to get you in contact with this leader. Listen, Deidre, I want to just applaud you in my couple of seconds that I have left. I want to applaud your journey in that. But I really want to applaud your journey. 30 years of leadership, not just only in serving the country, but serving the community, serving various communities throughout the country, communities of color, the medical community, women specifically, and now the next generation of medical leaders. You're at the front line of that. I am so glad to know you, to be related to you, to love
Thank
you, and
you.
to celebrate you.
Likewise.
I absolutely celebrate you. We need more leaders like you who have the courage and the voice to show up. So you all, this is the end of the show. I knew it was going to run quickly, but I promise you, this is a leader that we want to have back. If you want to have her back, make sure you put the comments in our
I would
comments.
love to come back.
And whether you do it now, I'm having her back because I'm going to keep talking to you about what's happening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're so vital, and you're so vitally needed now. So we celebrate you. Make sure you all reach out to her with Journey Medical. Make sure you contact her with your
Yes.
young people. If you have young people who are looking at the medical field and want some real training, not just in the medical field, but leadership development, I can't endorse a better leader than Deidra. So if you have not already, make sure you go to Facebook, join our fan page, join the conversation there. You can find us on Facebook at Master Your Morning with Ms.Mogul. Leave your comments there. Also, subscribe to our website. You can create your own economy.com and connect with us there. We have a big summit coming up called the Create Your Own Economy Summit. You can register there for free. I'm talking to 7- and 8-figure earners about how to navigate your way economically through the American economic situation right now. How do we leverage and then thrive? We don't want to just survive anymore. I believe you can thrive even in this environment. So make sure you go there, register. It is for free at youcancreateyourown.economy.com. I run past my line. This is all the time we have for, but listen, we'll have Deidra back. Deadra Thomas, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We'll see y'all for the next segment. Bye-bye for now.